My name is Jill Theobar. Welcome to Crash Course World History. Today we will be talking about the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Specifically why the death and destruction of the bombs deployed on Japan were crucial. Many people say these bombs were not worth it, but the tragedy and the calamity, however, were essential to the end of World War II and the surrender of Japan. Miss Silver! There were so many bombs dropped during World War II. What makes these two so special? Hello, me from the past. What a great question you ask. I remember the days when you were full of such brilliant knowledge and questions. These two bombs were revolutionary for the war. They brought the most destruction to anything we've ever seen before. In the beginning of the year 1939, the world scientists found out that a German physicist had learned the ways of splitting uranium atoms. Worried that the Germans would use that knowledge against the United States took action. The year 1941, Americans had begun and named the project of building the bomb. The official name for the chosen project was the Manhattan Project. Once it was official, they began work and had started at some universities. The universities named were the Universities of Columbia, Chicago, California, and at Berkeley. During this time of development, the head physicist of the project was Mr. Enrico Fermi. 1942, when Fermi led a group of physicists to produce the first controlled nuclear chain reaction under the grandstands of Stagg Field at the University of Chicago. A little bit of background information about Enrico Fermi, who is shown here. Enrico was born in Rome, Italy, who became an Italian physicist and created the world's first nuclear reactor. Many people referred to him as the architect of the nuclear age. The summer of 1945, the United States prepared to test the first bomb. On July 16, 1945, in New Mexico, the leaders of the Manhattan Project got ready to launch the world's first atomic bomb. No matter how much research was done, the United States was not properly prepared for this result. The bomb was attached to a 100-foot tower and was released before dawn. The outcome was astonishing. There was a blinding flash that was visible for 200 miles, and the mushroom cloud reached 40,000 feet. The explosion was so powerful, the windows in civilians' homes 100 miles away were blown out.
At 10:58, the morning of August 9th, the bomb was exploded above the city, and in the towering mushroom, Japan could read its doom. This was more than a routine bombing. It was the funeral pyre of an aggressor nation. The bomb had been purposely exploded high, so that the greatest part of its radioactive material was dissipated in the stratosphere.
After the bombs were successfully created, they were released and caused great destruction on Japan. Even though this was a horrible act and the concept of radiation inspired modern entertainment like movies and books. In America, atomic radiation made superheroes more often than monsters. Some popular monsters superheroes were the Incredible Hulk, which is a scientist accidentally exposed to gamma rays during a bomb test. There were also superheroes like Spider-Man, who was bitten by a radioactive spider. In the novel The Shrinking Man by Richard Matheson, there was a radioactive mist at sea. Hiroshima, the first bomb dropped, has an estimate of 118,661 deaths and does not include the people who died later on as a result of radiation. Nagasaki, the second bomb dropped, still had a dramatic effect, although not as many deaths occurred. An estimated 73,884 deaths occurred after this bomb. The less obvious effects of Nagasaki and Hiroshima had on Japan include radiation sickness, mental trauma, and even unborn children see the effects of stunted growth. All of this aftermath on Japan may seem very harsh, but the death toll was nothing in comparison to the rest of World War II. Hey guys, mystery satchel time! Godzilla! The original Godzilla, made in 1954, referenced the real event when a Japanese trawler crew suffered radiation after a Pacific Ocean bomb test. The firestorm of destruction brought on Tokyo in that film looked like a documentary, not fiction.
Mitsubishi plants made evident that Nagasaki's war-making power was totally destroyed. For the valley area of little more than 3 square miles, blast and fire reduced the industrial plants and surrounding buildings to blackened rubble. The Mitsubishi Steel and Arms Works extended almost a mile in length. Before the blast, these were modern buildings constructed like our own American factories. Closer examination of the ruin shows the same complete destruction that characterized the ruins of Hiroshima. Damage to equipment and machinery used in the manufacture of naval rifles, AA guns, and heavy artillery was such that even if Japan had determined to commit suicide by continuing resistance, she could not have salvaged much from the ruins. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were beneficial for the United States. Many people will argue that the 2 bombs were too harsh for the Japanese, but the war needed to be ended. Going back to the beginning of the war, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and that is what set the United States off and made them become involved with World War II. Japan was asking for trouble when they bombed us. Thousands of American troops would have been killed if they invaded Japan, and the United States already suffered a loss of 418,000 lives, including both military and civilian lives. The United States was looking for a quick end to the war. Rather than dragging it out, causing more suffering, they had a weapon in their possession that was capable, so they used it. 6 days after the Nagasaki bombing, the Japanese surrender had taken place. The mass destruction and devastation upon Japan quickened their surrender, which was the best solution to both sides. Also, if the bombs did not have such a harsh effect on Japan, they would have been pointless. They would have saved the United States from going through many missions that would have ended in the result in the same amount of casualties and destruction as if they hadn't used the bombs. The atomic bombs did what they were designed to do. They were created for destruction, which made Japan feel like they had no other choice but to surrender, resulting in the United States having a victory and World War II was over. The population of Hiroshima was down to 83,000 soon after the bombings. Japan quickly regained itself, bringing up the population to 169,000. This sudden population growth was not all good for Japan because of the shortages of food and shelter. In 1945, the national government adopted a war destruction reconstruction plan. This new plan was focused on a new city concept that would abandon its old war industries and focus on revival of foreign trade, shipbuilding, and fishing industries. This allowed for Japan to get their feet back under them. So if you haven't learned anything during this video, go ahead and watch it again. Thanks for watching Crash Course World History. I'm Jillian Thilbar, and I'll see you next time.